Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. Joining us on the phones, the Director of Strategic Communications for the Trump 2020 campaign, our friend Marc Lotter, joining us once again here on the Chad Hasty Show. Marc, welcome back. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Chad?
Doing wonderful. We appreciate you joining us. Today is another day, another Democrat, a big name Democrat. We're up to officially 20 with maybe 60 others thinking about jumping in. But the former Vice President, Joe Biden, finally, after taking months and months and months to decide, he's officially in this race. And I just want to get your thoughts overall on Joe Biden jumping into this thing.
Well, we don't really look at any of the candidates as being anything other than just a giant blob of socialists and progressives who are going to fight it out here for the right to take on one of the most successful Republican presidents in recent memory. And whomever comes out of that primary process, with where they're going to have 20, 30, whatever the final number is going to be, they're going to be bruised, battered, broke, and they're going to inherit a Democrat National Committee that is not adding donors, it's adding debt. They added a couple of $1 million in debt last month, are way behind in terms of fundraising, in terms of their digital and their voter information process. And when you contrast that with the president's record of success, it's a race we're ready to have.
Marc, I want to read just a portion of Joe Biden's website, because I think it speaks to the economy that the president has overseen. I think it's very hard for people to argue that the economy under this president has not been good. I think it's very hard to make that argument. This has been a great economy. Joe Biden on his website talks about rebuilding the middle class, but says the middle class isn't a number, it's a set of values. Owning your home, sending your kids to college, being able to save and get ahead. He doesn't talk about, middle America or the middle class not having any money. He talks about this, it's very vague, this set of values or whatever. How do you respond to something like that? Is Biden here kind of admitting that the economy is good, but we're trying to attack the middle class in some other way? What does that mean?
Well, that's a really good question, because when you look at all the numbers, the middle class, let's just give some broad brushstrokes here. Are succeeding under President Trump. Wages are going up at the fastest rate than they had since 2009. Last year, we added more manufacturing jobs in our country than in any year since 1997. And it's because we abandoned the Obama policies of over-government regulation, high taxes that were driving jobs away. The president actually delivered and is delivering on the promise to renegotiate the failed NAFTA deal, which caused so many jobs to flee our shores. And it's because of that just earlier this week I saw a story that in Pennsylvania, that they have the lowest unemployment rate in the history of that state. More and more, again, we saw just yesterday the vice president was in Michigan, where they're adding auto jobs. Now, these are the things that were fleeing our country when Obama and Biden were running the show. And now, because of President Trump, paychecks are going up, taxes are going down. And there was a story in the Wall Street Journal earlier this week that American retirees and workers have the highest confidence ever in their ability to save and be able to be financially secure in their retirement. That's what all of this means.
Yeah. And you brought up earlier that you look at the Democrats as one big socialist blob moving around. For Joe Biden, I don't think the socialists look at him as a socialist. I don't think Joe Biden's far left enough for the modern Democrat Socialist Party that have embraced the Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Ocasio-Cortezes. And I visited with numerous RNC officials and others on this show, and I'll ask you this: will this race, in your opinion, come down to one? Obviously there are going to be several issues, but will one of those central issues be socialism and the rise of socialism versus a president who's trying and a party that's trying to defend capitalism in this country?
Well, I think in broad senses, yes, but I mean, we need to focus and make sure that we're talking about the specifics because, first off, we can't let Joe Biden or anybody else just try to claim some mantle of being a moderate when about a month ago, when he almost accidentally announced his candidacy, he talked about being the most progressive candidate there was in the field. And look what the field, what their candidates are already endorsing. It has a nice, fluffy, great marketing name in Medicare for all, but what they're actually talking about is taking 180 million Americans, taking their Blue Cross Blue Shield, their United, their Aetna health insurance card that they get from their employer and they help pay into, they're going to tear it up. They're going to rip it out of your wallet whether you like it or not, and they're going to tear it up and replace it with a government health care card. Or for the 20 million American seniors who do the Medicaid or Medicare Advantage plans, those are gone as well. So when we talk about socialism, we talk about things like they're going to rip your health care insurance away from you whether you like it or not. They're talking about paying people who don't want to work. They're talking about eliminating cars and airplanes and cows. And I mean, these are some of the radical things, including letting now terrorists and child rapists vote from prison.
How did that become a thing with the Democrats? When did that issue? I talked about this yesterday. Who wants that endorsement of the child molester from prison endorsement? I mean, when did that even gain any kind of steam within that party?
It's remarkable how quickly, I first heard about it. I mean, I think it was on Monday night during that marathon of socialist town halls that CNN had, and somebody asked Bernie Sanders that question, and then Kamala Harris climbed on and said it's something we should be discussing. It's just really amazing. And now many of them are trying to walk it back, saying, well, nonviolent offenders should be able to vote from prison. So people who scam our seniors out of their money, or people who peddle child pornography. So those people should be able to vote. I mean, these are the kinds of real-world things. And while it's great to talk about it in terms of socialism versus capitalism, let's talk about it in the ways that it's going to affect the American people, the people who are listening to your show. This is what we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. We're visiting with Marc Lotter here on the Chad Hasty Show. Marc, obviously, as Director of Strategic Communications, one of your jobs is to get this message out and to the people. When it comes to places like Pennsylvania and here in the state of Texas, a state that may or may not be a battleground state coming up in 2020, though I think Republicans should treat it as a battleground state. What is that core message that the president needs to get out to Republican voters?
Well, I think we've got to first off look at the results and make sure people are realizing these results and that they're not guaranteed, especially when you have folks who are trying to return to the days of the overregulation, the things that drove us to having one of the slowest, weakest recoveries under the Obama-Biden years since World War II. So we've got to take that message, and we need the listeners of your show to go out there and talk to their friends, talk to their neighbors. And I'll tell you right now, we're not taking Texas for granted. I'm going to be in Texas this weekend because I'm giving the Lincoln Day speech in El Paso.
Oh, great.
To the Republican, the county Republican Party there on Saturday. Looking forward to getting down there and doing that. But we're not taking anything for granted. And anyone who knows the president knows he leaves nothing to chance. He's not going to sit and rest on his laurels. Even if the Democrats are going to try to go out and embrace socialism, he's going to run like we're 5 points down until we win this thing by 10 points or so. That's the way he is. He doesn't take anything for granted, so neither are we at this campaign. But the one thing we have to have is the folks who are listening to this show, the folks who like the way our country's going in terms of the economy and dealing with issues like North Korea and Iran and the fact that NATO for so long was basically skating by, trusting American taxpayers to pay the cost of their security. These are the things that they're not permanent. They can always be undone. So we need to talk to our friends, our families, our neighbors, people at church, people at work, and tell them about the good things that are going on, and then sign up. talk to more people and make sure. We've got a long road ahead of us, but it's really going to fall on everybody out there doing their little part to help make sure that this success continues.
Yes, absolutely. Marc Lotter, Director of Strategic Communications for the Trump 2020 campaign. Have a great weekend in El Paso, and we'll visit with you down the road.
Look forward to it, Chad. Thank you.
Thank you. That's Marc Lotter here on the Chad Hasty Show, KFYO.